Well, 2021 has been a very eventful year, especially in politics. We had unprecedented outcomes in the municipal elections, where many would say citizens exercised their right to withhold votes to protest against poor service delivery. And then, of course, the ANC factional battles got up our noses. Remember that veterans hostage drama, the July unrest, the suspension of Ace Magashule and Carl Niehaus. Well, to weigh in on the year that was, I'm joined by political commentator Lukhanyo Vangqa. Lukhanyo, thank you very much for your time, and Merry Christmas. What a political year. I mean, really, from the imprisonment of a former president to the ANC's poor showing at the polls to the suspension of Magashule and the PPE scandals, we've honestly been very busy in newsrooms, and the commentary has been just as interesting and very insightful. Now, let's start with perhaps the jailing of a former president. What did that moment really signify for the rule of law, our constitutional democracy, and the ANC itself?
Good afternoon and Merry Christmas to you and to the viewers as well. Very unprecedented move that happened when the Con Court found the president guilty of contempt of court. That was in June, on the 29th of June. And then he was taken into custody, arrested, and taken to the escort prison facility. Very unprecedented, and even the reaction itself was very unprecedented. We had the largest civil unrest in this country since the dawn of democracy. And we had that particular event satellite, the social media platforms, satellite traditional media platforms. And it was quite very unprecedented, very unfortunate as well, in a very unfortunate phase in the life of our country. Loss of life. We had the Phoenix massacre come as a result of that. So a very eventful year, very eventful time, and a very unfortunate time, both for the Zuma family and for the country. However, at the end of it all, we exonerated the rule of law in this country.
But it also birthed a very important conversation, because there was talk of racist undertones. Also, there was the unsustainable inequality gap that many spoke of. And as much as we spoke of anarchy, criminality with what we saw with the unrest, but these two were quite important elements to this discourse, wouldn't you say, when we spoke of the racist undertones that we saw in Phoenix, and then as well as the inequality gap that many analysts spoke of, that this is unsustainable and really speaks of a capitalist system that will see people eating each other alive?
Put in its proper historic context, what happened was, when politicians talk about youth unemployment and the high levels of inequality in this country being a ticking time bomb, usually to them that's just buzzwords. It's just them saying those, meaning without any meaning behind them. But what we saw with the June riots is that it really is a ticking time bomb, the youth unemployment in this country, that this country continues to be the most unequal society on the face of this earth. Is a very unsustainable path that this country is on. And we've seen, throughout history, politically speaking, whenever there's been an unrest, a revolution, the Arab Spring, all of those things stem from the unsustainable levels of youth unemployment, as well as, inequality in society. We cannot continue to have in this country the division of Alexandra versus Sentin the way that we have. It is unsustainable, and that is what is going to take this country to the brink, that if nothing else.
And we see a very angry society, because if you just look at social media, there's been a lot of xenophobic rhetoric, if you will. I mean, and I suppose it speaks to the pie getting smaller, where we're seeing a lot of people that are comfortable to say, everybody go back to your country, we cannot sustain this anymore. Do you see that? Have you also noted that element of xenophobia or rhetoric around that, or protectionism, if you will?
Yes, that's what happens when things like this happen, when there's a stagnation of economic opportunity, when those who feel that they've been left out of the economic opportunities of their country start to now attack, those that are the easy targets, the vulnerable members of society. They will attack people that look different, people that come from other countries. You have this built up in the political milieu of a country, wherein xenophobic elements start to be, fermented even by politicians and also by, leaders of society who you would expect to act a little more responsibly. Your Herman Mashabas of this world would use that as a political football in order to earn some mileage for their political parties. It's a very dangerous thing that happens because we know the history that we have in this country with xenophobia, because it doesn't take much to light the match that will be around a person who is coming from an African country and has a tie around their necks, all for the basis that they come from another country. And those are the elements that we find in 2021 when we saw with Gayton McKenzie with Gayton McKenzie with Patriotic Alliance, Herman Mashaba with Action SA. So those are the elements that I don't know how this country can be able to rise above them. And one of the things that we can really do is to be more responsible in the political speech that we have with our politicians.
I want to touch on these political parties that did fairly well in the local government elections. But first, I want us to conclude this one on the ANC. If we bring in the KZN element, there's constant talk of mistrust between the rank and file of the ANC and its provincial leadership. There's this narrative that doesn't seem to die in some quarters that the leadership was indifferent when it came to Zuma's legal matter. What has been your observation of the issues in KZN, also looking into the current regional conference outcomes?
What I see there is a Sihle Zikalala that is in charge of a PEC that seems to support, at the PEC level at least, the Cyril Ramaphosa faction, or, is warming up to Cyril Ramaphosa. However, the rest of the province with regards to branch levels and grassroots level, that province still is very much anti-Cyril Ramaphosa. So you have a PEC that is in charge of a province that doesn't support their political preferences with regards to leadership at a national level. Now, it will come to the issue of the provincial conference that sits next year in KZN to see who will then emerge when the Sihle Zikalala can be able to retain and get a second term in office. If it doesn't, then we can see that KZN will go towards, anything but Cyril Ramaphosa.
Lukhanyo, it's a very interesting observation that you make, that this PEC is sympathetic to Cyril Ramaphosa as administration. Apologies there. Because last week I spoke to Mdumiseni Ntuli, the secretary, and he literally was stating that, there are just those that don't appreciate that they really are in support of the former president, Jacob Zuma. They're just those detractors that would state that. But in essence, it seems the lines have been drawn. If you're in support of the former president right now, mostly they are not sympathetic to the administration of Cyril Ramaphosa because there are those allegations that they throw around that he's being persecuted under this administration or this leadership. So it's interesting that you then say they are sympathetic to the leadership or administration of the current president when they were in fact proposing to the NEC that they join as amicus curiae in that matter of the appeal that has since been in his favor, in the former president's favor.
Yes, Mdumiseni Ntuli is a political Machiavelli operator. So you remember how we said that the PEC of KZN will go and support President Zuma, former President Zuma, in his court appearances. Now, the reason why they were going to do that is to close the space for those that would want to use that platform as a way to campaign against the leadership of the ANC, your Carl Niehauses of this world, your Supra Mahupele of this world. So they were only going to support Jacob Zuma so that they can close space around him, so that those that don't adhere to their leadership preferences don't use that space, the Jacob Zuma platform, as a launching pad to attack the ANC leadership. So the only reason why they would join in that particular, fora with regards to the Jacob Zuma appeal, it's only to close the space. So it's political maneuvering rather than genuine political support for the former president. And they've said it themselves with their own mouths. So we're only analyzing what they were saying and what they do. And it fits exactly into how Mdumiseni Ntuli does things as a political player.
My goodness, so this is a mere kick for touch, according to you, that what we saw with them proposing to join as amicus curiae was just for optics, really, where it was a PEC that wanted to be seen to be doing something, because that province is very divided and many are in support of the former president.
And even those that are not, out and out political radicals, that are just, sort of middle of the fence sitters, they are very sympathetic to President Jacob Zuma, and it's very easy to sympathize with a 79-year-old man who's been sentenced to prison. It just doesn't sit well with any person that is in the ANC. ANC closes ranks amongst its comrades. It takes care of its own. So when they do that, they are trying to win over those people as well, so that they don't see them as being anti-Zuma or abandoning Zuma in his time of need. And it's not really just, genuine support for President Zuma. They probably have differing political views and, how in the political direction that the ANC should take. But it's just for them to politically maneuver in such a way that they don't alienate any more of the support in KZN, because they have their eye on the provincial conference that's coming up next year.
Sure, Lukhanyo, I wish we actually had more time, because it seems now we've confined ourselves to just the African National Congress, when there's so much that happened from the Democratic Alliance and the tone that we've seen now, some sort of a shift with the coalition governments. But hopefully we'll have you by the 31st to wrap up some of those other political events. Thank you very much, though, for joining us this afternoon.